After leaving our boondocking spot in Colorado, Coda and I decided to head north to Wyoming. She started out behaving, but before the day was over, there was blood, and of course it was my blood. As we started getting north of Fort Collins, the temperature rose to 97 degrees Fahrenheit. And as you can see, the landscape is vastly different from the mountainous terrain where we were. This part of Colorado is relatively flat and mostly grassland. And here we come to the border, and we are now in Wyoming. Now, Wyoming, at least the southern eastern part of the state, is similar to the northeastern part of Colorado. And you can see it's just wide open sky, very flat. I mean, compared to the mountains, very flat. There's a storm off in the distance, and it looks like it has the potential to be pretty serious. There was a forecast of severe weather, so I was a little bit um, concerned about which way that was heading, but obviously we were going to go west towards a state park between Laramie and Cheyenne. So it was going to miss us. And I believe it went into Nebraska, if not the Black Hills of South Dakota. Now, one thing Wyoming is known for is wind, and there are several wind farms scattered around the state. This particular road and Kurt Gowdy State Park, someplace I'd never been before, and it was just kind of a last minute stop. But it actually, I camped on the Crystal Reservoir, a beautiful spot, just like Granite Reservoir, that's closer to the entrance. Fishing, however, didn't work out very well for me. But it was a beautiful evening, and it was fun. We pick up our Wyoming sticker. On the way out, we got stuck in a goose traffic jam. And now we are heading north towards Casper. And actually, we will go through Casper and continue west to a couple sections of the North Platte that I like fishing, and Alcova and Pathfinder reservoirs. Unfortunately for me, from Douglas all the way over to where we ended up camping. There was a strong headwind, and I burned through half a tank of fuel and only managed about 5 miles to the gallon. Wyoming is also a popular coal mining state. Um, Trains here, usually a mile long, full of coal, heading to the various power plants around the west and probably to the east as well. Now the terrain starts getting different here after you get to the west. We're finally on the road where we're going to camp. I've camped in this area several times in the past using tent trailers. They fixed the road. I got to say, with a trailer, it's one of the worst roads I've ever been on. But here we are at the camp spot right along the North Platte River. And you can see that nice Wyoming breeze. This area is pretty harsh. About the only stuff that really grows and stays green is right along the river. After that, it turns into a desert, and these are all really drought-tolerant plants that, live anywhere further than about 5 to 10 feet from the bank of the river. Unfortunately, the water level was extremely high, and it was full of algae and weeds. And worst fishing conditions I have experienced in Wyoming. And so this pretty much sums up my entire fishing trip up there. Cast, catch weeds, repeat. This is actually Great Reef Dam. There goes Mr. Pelican for a ride. Check it out. Great Reef. What if they do that just for fun? Fantastic fly fishing location. We're going to head over to Alcova Reservoir and give that a try since the river was so bad. The landscape around this reservoir is amazing. It's actually one of my favorite places to go. Okay, so we moved over to Alcova Reservoir. This is called Black Beach. I've actually never been here, this part of the reservoir, before. I didn't realize there was so much camping right here. Kind of wish I'd come over here. I love this reservoir. You've got a lot of these rock formations with the red tones and the tans and pinks and everything. This is just a fantastic place at sunset. This is another section of Alcova Reservoir. I believe it was called Dinosaur. I'm not 100% sure. But this area has a lot of red rock formations and just unique, amazing landscape. Now we're heading towards Fremont Canyon. And Fremont Canyon is just an amazing little canyon. At some places it's 500 feet down to the water from the top. From Fremont Canyon, we head over to Pathfinder Reservoir, another great fishing spot. This is a really large reservoir. It's a nice place to go. Um, Unfortunately, I mean, it was brutally hot, and I just wasn't having any real luck. I had one bite here, and that was it. So this particular side is near the marina. Where I'm fishing here is the opposite side of the reservoir. And believe it or not, there's actually pelicans in Wyoming. And some people told me about this years ago, and I didn't believe them. I thought they were completely insane. But there are pelicans in these reservoirs in Wyoming. It's just the craziest thing. Generally, the fishing is better in the reservoir either early in the morning or later in the evening as the sun is lower in the sky. The temperature of the water cools a little bit, but for the most part, this was actually the worst fishing trip I've ever had in Wyoming. I've probably fished New York the most, Colorado second, Wyoming the third. And New York and Colorado, I lived in each of them for over 20 years. So to get skunked in Wyoming was unheard of. But, you know, I wasn't fishing actually the best times. It wasn't the best time of year. The conditions in the river were terrible. So it's kind of to be expected. I suppose if I'd used some bait and fished in the evening or early morning, it would have been a different story. But overall, it was a fun trip. So Wyoming turned out to be a relatively problem-free trip. The worst thing was the fishing, unfortunately. That was the whole reason I went there. But, what are you going to do? That happens sometimes. So I appreciate you watching. Please like, subscribe, and, all of that stuff. And I will see you next time from Nebraska. Bye.